Before I started work today, I had to connect up the hose so that Joe could do some watering. Now the connection is at the water meter in this pit, and in the pit was a fire salamander. Now fire salamanders are toxic, and apparently they can spray their toxin up to about a foot, so I kind of avoided him. But in the process of doing that, I sprayed water all over myself as well. Not very clever. But he didn't like me, so he hid in a hole, and a friend came to visit him.
Hello viewer. Today is the day. This beam here, I'm going to start removing it. Now what that's going to involve is using this Sumner lift to get underneath it and hold it in place at the center. Then I'll chop it with a chainsaw either side of that. That center section should weigh around about 400 kilos, possibly 300. The Sumner lift is rated up to, I think, 600 kilos, so I think we're good. So I'll put a ladder behind here to do my chainsawing. That will hold it in place. When it's cut, I can then drop it and then deal with that end and then with that end. That's the plan anyway. So I'll just move a few things around here, then get the chainsaw out. By the way, that I had a hose mishap this morning. This isn't actually me having an incontinent moment. Now there is something dreadfully wrong with my chainsaw technique because I put the blade in there, I think, as straight as I can, but when I look at that, the cut is curving around like that. So it's binding as soon as I get more than about 3 or 4 centimeters in. So I'm gonna have to try and find another way. I might have to get the big ladder out and do it from the top. What you may not be able to see is that having lifted the Sumner lift up under the beam, I cranked it as tight to the beam as I could. The upshot of that is that this post here has been lifted off of its footing. So it's mobile, which is awkward. I want that to be on the ground. Well, that's helpful. For some reason, just by putting that cut in the side and lifting that up to touch it, the beam has changed its dynamics and it's flexed upward to lift that post off the ground. So when I do cut through there, that end of the beam is going to drop with a bang to rest on there. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I think, by rights, I should put some sort of a support up there to try and hold that so it doesn't fall either way. Or, see, we don't know how much of that beam is actually in the wall. if there's a lot of the beam that's got stones either side of it holding it in place, in theory the stones will stop it flexing and stop this, once I've cut it, moving either way, in theory. But we don't know that. So what we want is a small triangle to stop that beam, that upright post, from going either way. Right, that's one cut done. Now this post is firmly embedded in concrete at this end, so it's going to stay upright. It's not going to move side to side, so I'm not going to have to brace this one. I just have to cut it. And it's a case of cutting it where there's no nails, which I think is about here. It's not exactly half, the thing isn't, the salamander lift isn't exactly halfway, but it's near enough, so it shouldn't be off balance too badly. Right, let's get on and do that. So, cut, in theory. So as I say, about 300-400 kilos. It's going to be some good firewood. Now let's have a look at this end. So my little triangle piece is holding that post. That is just bizarre. Okay, so the stones holding that end of the beam are sufficiently tight around the beam, and there's obviously sufficient amount of beam inside there that... Oh no, they are resting on this. Okay. I was going to say that they were holding the beam upright, which is why this was still floating, but in actual fact, I can't lift that, so the screws that are holding this in place are providing the support for that upright. Now I need to get this beam off, and I need to cart it around to my wood pile somewhere. As I say, it's full of woodworm, so I don't really want it in here. I need it outside where it's away from the wood that I want to keep, and I can then just cut it up at my leisure. Or leisure. What do we need? Directly outside the door is my car. If I'm going to let go of this accidentally, I'm going to damage the car. Right, so just went to move the car. Now to throw the beam out. Okay, so I know that some of you have said you don't like watching me sweep up, but all this gravel on the ground makes it difficult for these small wheels to move around. So I'm just going to sweep up a little bit. I'll fast forward it, promise, and then I'll probably start chipping off the plaster around that end of the beam so that I can free it up, maybe remove a stone or two if I can. And that then will allow me to just pull that beam out. So I'll free it up a bit, then put the Sumner lift back underneath it, slide it onto the Sumner lift if I can, and then that's that end done. Then I've just got to have to worry about that end. All right, let's do that. Well, there's a good 25 centimeters of beam into the wall, which is a good thing for keeping it in place. It's a bad thing for taking it out. So I'm going to rummage around in my pile of drill bits, see if I can find a longer masonry drill so that I can try and drill out some more of the mortar which is packing around the beam. Because I want to try and have a relatively clear space around the beam so that when I put the Sumner lift underneath it, I can just slide it onto the Sumner lift. That's the idea. Because the last thing that I want is that's going to be 250 to 300 kilos. So if it tilts at all like that, the upshot is it's going to move the entire pile of stones and rubble above it, potentially removing a large lump of wall on the inside skin, which we don't want. So best to clear around it. Well, fingers crossed. Let's hope that does it. as you can see, it's quite a lot of burning from the chain in there because the wood was so hard. I mean, realistically, it's quite probable that the woodworm only would have got, you know, a centimetre or two into this, but you just can't trust it. And also, it's not actually the right sort of dimensions to be supporting a floor. That's why it's got the two extra, or had the two extra supports. So we're going to replace this with something new, probably a new piece of oak. Joe says, why don't we have it full height? I think that's just an idea for now to think about. We still have the possibility of a replacement oak beam in the back pocket. We'll see what happens. Anyway, this is going to be firewood. Come and have a look. So the socket that you've got up there, okay, now that's, obviously we need to clear all the base out. That's all good. But this socket is the size of the smaller beam that we just took out. You look over there, this beam is 35 centimeters tall by 30 centimeters wide, and that's really what we should be having in here. So, and it's got a wood lintel going on the inside face over here and a wood lintel there, which is all right because they're quite wide, quite deep. But if we were to put in a 30 centimeter wide by 35 centimeter high, that's going to pose a bit of problems because between these two wood lintels, we haven't got 30 centimeters. So it might have to be 25. I'll measure it and check. But certainly the height, we don't want these two stones in here. And in order to get us a little bit of wriggle room when we insert a beam into there, certainly those two stones have to come out. And you can see that there's an edge to a stone here and an edge to a stone there. If I remove these two, that one's going to just fall out. Possibly something here too. So a little bit of care has to be taken to work out exactly what needs to be removed, what needs to be kept, what needs to be propped up here prior to whatever goes back in this socket. And as far as the other side is concerned, over there, we'll get to that another day. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. See you again soon. Don't forget, like and subscribe. Bye for now.